Today on Relationship Stories Tube, we have a lady who talks about her divorce. My husband was so supportive when we divorced, I realized I wanted him back. 5 years ago, I started having doubts about my marriage. I had just turned 53 and had been with my husband Mark since the age of 25. We have 3 children, and the last one had gone to university, and something in me changed. Call it menopause, midlife crisis, an existential questioning, but I woke up one morning and realized that I no longer want to be married. It seemed a shock back then. I've since found out that lots of women in mid-age feel the way I felt, but I had no idea about that back then. One minute I thought we were basically fine, and the next I woke up and realized I wanted to leave. I'm a very decisive person, so I told my husband within a week that I didn't want to be in a relationship with him anymore. He looked as if he'd been hit by a high-speed train. He asked me if there was someone else. He told me he loved me and he wanted to be married to me. But after some months of counseling, which I agreed to because I felt I should, I knew I was done and I pushed for divorce. I then went off on what I would call my eat, pray, love journey. Part of it was because I'd always wanted to spend a year away. I'd always been a good girl. I went to university, got my degree, went to work, got married, bought a house, had children, and gave up my job to be a housewife. But now I was single and child-free. I felt like I wanted time to do what I wanted to do and find out the person I really was underneath the dutiful daughter and good wife and mother. My husband couldn't believe it when I told him I bought a ticket to India. He said I'd never been further than Surrey without him. But it felt so important to me to go and find out what I wanted to do with my life and to find out who I was. I started off in Calcutta and worked in a children's charity. I set it all up before I left, so I knew that I had something to do when I got there. As soon as I got off the plane, I felt I was in my spiritual home. I was so happy. I felt so moved by the children and the terrible poverty they lived in that I absolutely devoted myself to the job. In fact, I worked so hard that I actually ended up burning out, and the director of the charity told me to take some time off. I went off to Jaipur and Jodhpur and saw the Taj Mahal. I hung out on a houseboat on a lake. Then I went down to Pondicherry because I loved the book The Life of Pi. I studied yoga there for months. Then I went back to Calcutta and continued working. It was an incredible time. I met a fellow volunteer, 10 years younger than myself, and we started up an easygoing affair. After a year, though, the lack of any mod cons began to bite. I had kept in touch with my now ex-husband. We had got divorced while I was away, and it was very amicable, and he was very fair and split everything 50-50. He told me he never wanted me to be out of pocket. In fact, he was incredibly supportive throughout my entire time. He would send me messages and little clips of stories, and every morning I would wake up to him saying hello, and then at night he would say goodnight. As time went on, I realized that that level of love is something that's quite hard to find. I began to think that maybe I had acted hastily. One night, having had a bit too much to drink, I texted him and told him I missed him. It was the first time in 3 years I had said anything like that. Usually he would text directly back, but I felt so silly having texted him that I put the phone down and turned it off. The next morning, I turned it back on, expecting to see a message from him saying he missed me too, but there was nothing. I didn't have a message from him for the entire day, and I started having a very queasy feeling in my stomach. Later on in the day, he texted me saying he was hoping I was having a good time, but I could sense something had changed. A month after that, I flew home. Mark met me at the airport. He gave me a warm hug but avoided eye contact. On the way back to the house we had once shared but he had moved out of, he told me that he had put the house up for sale as agreed, and then he told me what I had begun to suspect. He's met someone, he said. I like her. It's turning into a serious relationship. It was then that I truly understood the meaning of divorce. Friends had said to me that Mark was a catch, that if I went away and left him and divorced him, he would find someone else. But at the time, I felt completely fine about it. But now I was facing the realization of what I had lost and the good man that I had cast aside that some other lucky woman had sensibly picked up. I just couldn't cope. I completely collapsed. Mark actually looked confused. He said, "But you wanted to get divorced." I told him, yes, I did, but I was an idiot, and while I was away, I realized that I still loved him. I just needed to rediscover myself. On and on and on I went, blurting everything out. Finally, once I'd stopped talking, Mark put his hand on my knee and said, "I will always love you, but actually, I think our relationship was probably dead, and you were right to call it. I've met someone who I think I'm going to be very happy with, and I'm sorry, but we're divorced now, and that's how it's going to remain." It's a year on now from that conversation. I would like to say I'm happier, but I don't think I am. I can see he is, and that really pains me, although I do want him to be happy because I know I really hurt him. He would like me to be friends with his new partner, but I'm nowhere near doing that yet. I've been on quite a few dates, but I have to say very few men match up to my ex-husband. I don't regret what's happened because there's no point in that, but I do wish that maybe I had managed things rather differently and somehow negotiated a sabbatical or suggested to him that we went away together to do something. I just couldn't see straight at the time. I was so convinced that I had to do a journey into myself, and while that was important, I also lost a very important person in the process. However, and this is huge, I don't regret my year away or the wonderful affair that I had in India. I keep that very close to my chest, and I know that I'm building on that, and then at the end, I think I will be very happy and content either by myself or with a new wonderful partner. Well, what do you think about this lady? How does she move on? Leave your comments below.